Welcome back to another episode of Bring the Juice. Your guys, Derek and Cody, with you as always. And guys, the Indianapolis Colts in Richardson's return to the field win against the Miami Dolphins at home for a final score of 16-10. Struggle bus it was at times for the Indy offense, but the Colts do improve on their record, and they are 4-3 through the first 7 weeks of the season. And we'll go ahead and talk about it now, guys. But before we do that, just want to say this episode is presented by Prize Picks. Download the app today and use the code JUICE to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Cody, before we really go diving deep into all of this, Anthony Richardson comes back, albeit the Colts offense had its struggles today, but the Colts did do enough to get the win today. How do you feel about this Colts win and the Colts being 4-3 through the first 7 weeks?
Yeah, it was frustrating for sure. A very frustrating game back and forth where you really felt like this game, in a lot of ways, for the Colts, probably shouldn't have been as close as it was.
Yeah.
It felt like the Colts really did a lot in this game. Like they obviously didn't dominate because it was a kind of a close game, but it just felt like the Colts were in control for the majority of this game. But there was just some of their own mistakes, which we've seen a lot this year. Stepping on their own foot, shooting their own foot, whatever you want to say. Kind of getting in their own way a lot of times. And that's what made it so frustrating is, the Colts would put themselves in good situations and then they would just have moments or a couple bad plays that would completely change the outcome of the drive or, on offense or defense. And so, again, a win's a win. And, I think there definitely were some units and some players individually that were worth a shout out. But, a very frustrating day, especially from the offense, it felt like, in this game, and definitely some growing pains that we saw from the young quarterback today, and none that were unexpected, Derek. None of us are shocked that Anthony Richardson is still having those struggles. He missed 2 games, so there is an element of that rust that I'm sure was there as well. But yeah, kind of up and down, more down than up today for sure for the offense, no doubt. But again, they did what they had to do, and they ultimately hung on, man, and through 7 games, like you said, they're 4-3. Winning record, so we'll take it, I guess.
Yeah, it's certainly not a good spot for the tank people that for some reason still want the Indianapolis Colts to be tanking. Definitely a weird take, but whatever. Okay, so let's hop into this real quick. First things first, got to talk about Anthony Richardson, who finally returned from when he went down in week 4 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. His first time being back on the field. 10 of 24 today, 129 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, 59 quarterback rating. Also had 14 carries for 56 yards in this game. Cody, some good, quite a bit bad. It definitely was still not the kind of performance we were hoping for, and certainly one of those where we were hoping we would see Anthony Richardson pick up from where he was at the end when he got hurt against Pittsburgh. Certainly wasn't the case here, though.
No, and I think there were a couple factors into that. I talked about the rust, obviously, not playing in 2 games. This is a quarterback that already didn't have a lot of, snaps under center as it was. Yeah. So missing a couple games certainly probably didn't help in that department. Number 2, Miami really actually, when you looked at it, Derek, they had a pretty good pass defense. I think they were top 10 when it came to pass defense.
Top 6, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so and that was the thing. I was like, man, I'm kind of surprised the Colts tried to pass it as much as they did because Miami did have some pretty good players coming into this. Their secondary, I thought, is a really good secondary, all things considered. So, yeah, I think those are 2 factors. And then I think Derek, just the growing pains, like I said, of a young quarterback, a project guy that we knew when the Colts took him. There was going to be moments like this. I texted you, Derek, and I said, man, you know what? Like, I know it's been really bad today for Anthony Richardson. And we can just say that. Like, we're not above criticizing Anthony Richardson. He was bad today. We can say that.
Yeah.
Was not a good quarterback today throwing the football. When you look at it, completion percentage, rating, all those things just off, some timing off, some inaccuracies. I mean, pretty much everything you expected from a kid who, barely had any playing time in college, and really is still developing his game in a lot of ways. I mean, I think it was interesting, Derek, today. I was listening right near the end of that game when they were talking to Joe Flacco. The announcers were talking, about that. And he had said he was talking to Anthony Richardson, and one of them had asked Anthony Richardson, they had said, is he like in your ear all the time asking questions like crazy? And Joe Flacco actually had an interesting thing. He said, no, he actually doesn't know the right questions to ask because he hasn't experienced those things, right? He just hasn't been in those situations where he can ask those questions, right? And I think that's the point of it, is like, this is the point. This is what we need to see from Anthony Richardson, even despite the bad that we'll see, the good and the bad, everything that's included in that. That's why it's so critical for Anthony Richardson to play these games, to start and to finish these games, right? Because if he doesn't, then how in the world is he going to know what he doesn't know?
Right.
Like that's just such a thing with young quarterbacks, especially quarterbacks that haven't had a lot of playing time, is like, how are they going to know how to handle a situation in the future if they've never handled that situation to begin with, right? So this season, Derek, there's a lot of firsts for Anthony Richardson. I mean, that's just what it is. Like, there's a lot of firsts at the NFL level. And I'm not too shocked. And honestly, Derek, I said, this is kind of what I expected last year from Anthony Richardson. Like, I'm not too shocked that this is what we're seeing from him in certain areas, because we all knew that he had a lot of issues mechanically throwing the football, his footwork, his accuracy, his timing. Like, we knew all that stuff was going to need major work. But what was the big thing, Derek, with Anthony Richardson was the potential, right? The physical tools, all that stuff was, off the charts. But the reason why he didn't go number one overall, Derek, was because the things we're seeing, a lot of the issues, the timing, all that stuff, and just a lack of experience as well. So I think those all kind of showed today. I think those were the three major factors: the rust of not playing for 2 weeks, playing a pretty good pass defense, and then just the young quarterback having his moments. Essentially, Derek, it's rookie Josh Allen having rookie Josh Allen moments. That's what I look at it as. Now, I'm not going to say that Anthony Richardson is going to become Josh Allen. Don't hear me wrong. But that's kind of what the comparison is, right? It's like a young, raw quarterback with a cannon for an arm that you just got to go out there and let play, man. And that's what happened. Yep. And I will say this, Derek, before I kind of let you give your take on Anthony Richardson. Despite the fact that, you pull up the stats, you're like, oh, it was ugly today, looking from a passing standpoint from Anthony Richardson, there were some drives, Derek, some passes Anthony Richardson had today where it left you encouraged, right? You think about the drive before the first half when the Colts were down 10-0. Anthony Richardson helps you get into field goal range, cut that to a 7-point lead. And then I felt like the last two drives for the Colts, Anthony Richardson's had some nice passes. I mean, they had a couple of nice ones down the field. It was a 3rd and 8 where you needed to convert, and Anthony Richardson converted. There was a pass, even though it was, not quite where it needed to be, it still found its target to Michael Pittman. It was like right there. Mm-hmm. But still, got completed. So, look, you know what? He'll have his bad moments. He had plenty of those today. Believe me. We know. We saw it. But, Derek, there were some good. There were some positive things. And I think that's what you need right now from this young kid. That's what you need to see. The positive things, even though there's a lot of negatives right now, just let him play. Let him learn, man. Let him learn. Let him grow. And let's just see him. My biggest thing is not really where he's at, Derek, as a quarterback. It's just, I just need him to continue to start and end games. Like, I need him to be on the field consistently and learn from week to week. And I think if he can do that, Derek, I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, we don't know, obviously. We can't predict the future, but that would go a long way for his development.
Yeah, and, getting the win today was, a big thing. Again, Anthony Richardson has won just as many games this year as Joe Flacco has now. It's just one of those things. Getting the win is an ultimate confidence booster. That's definitely the thing. And like you said, on top of the many bad things that he did do today, I mean, one thing that stands out to me here, Cody, and one thing that was kind of frustrating to me to watch was the situation in which the Dolphins were getting consistent pressure on Anthony Richardson. Now, I mean, obviously, as a young quarterback that is still learning and figuring it out, Steichen didn't really do him any favors in putting him in situations where it was obvious third and longs, and then the Dolphins were blitzing and the Colts couldn't figure it out on protecting him. But yet, Richardson was not sacked once today, Cody. Several times where he even got hit behind the line of scrimmage and was able to break it and was actually able to get some positive yardage out of it. Was actually even able to get a couple runs where he extended drives. Again, it's certain things like that some quarterbacks are just not able to do, particularly Flacco. If Flacco would have been back there today, there would have been quite a few sacks given up in that game today, and it definitely would not have worked out in Indy's favor. So again, that's one thing that we saw from Anthony Richardson that we can take with a grain of salt. And like you said, the one turnover in the red zone that just killed me. It would have been so much better if we just didn't do that. But outside of that, Richardson didn't throw an interception in this game. Again, and the mechanics looked better to me, Cody. Some of the throws, I don't think there was as many errant throws in this game. I think personally, it just kind of came down to the Dolphins playing really good coverage against some of these wide receivers. I think there was a couple of plays that Richardson tried to make in which some guys just weren't open. Now, obviously, there were some times when he might have missed the open guy, but again, it's all growing pains. He's going to continue to learn from these reps, but again, to the crowd that says Anthony Richardson just needs to sit, again, he can't, like you said from the very beginning, Anthony Richardson is not going to learn watching mental reps. He's not going to learn how to dissect defenses and who to throw to if he's never going to get the snaps. If he's never going to have the live action reps, then he'll never get better as a quarterback because he didn't have the reps in the first place. And if you just keep denying him the reps, then it's just not going to ever get better for him. Who knows? It may never get better for him, and that's possible. But we won't know if Anthony Richardson never gets the opportunity to grow. And if he never gets the opportunity, then you just wasted a 4th overall draft pick for nothing, basically, at that point. So we digress. Unless you have anything more to add to that.
No, I think that was good. What you had said is how is this kid going to grow? Look, it's different, Derek, if Anthony Richardson played all 17 games last year and has played every single game this year and looks the way that he has looked, right? It's completely different conversation then, because it's well, he really hasn't grown as a passer in, a year and almost a year and a half at this point. We got some real concerns there, right? That's kind of the biggest question mark when it comes to that. But I think for me, Derek, I kind of look at it and I say, I'm not too overly concerned right now, because if this kid had consistent time, games on games, I think that we would be able to see a little bit more. Is he the guy or is he not? And I think it's just right now, like you said, he very well may not be that guy. That is a distinct possibility. We're not throwing that out and saying he's the guy. I don't care how he plays. That's not what we're saying. But what we're saying is, it's impossible to say that right now until you see him consistently get more snaps. It's just impossible to make that assumption one way or another to say he's the franchise or he's not. You just don't know at this point, right? Derek, last year, with Bryce Young even, I'll just throw that out, another quarterback in that draft class, or even Will Levis, right? They played so many more games just because they were available last year, and you were able to get more of a clear indication. And obviously with those two guys, you clearly saw they weren't the guys, or they haven't really been the guys so far. But with Richardson, it's different because you just haven't seen him play extended periods of time, right? And yes, he's not been the greatest. We'll admit that, right? He's not had great games this year throwing the football. But I just want to see it, Derek, for a full season, as much as possible. I know it'll probably be, only 15 games if he stays healthy the rest of the year. But still, 15 games, that's a significant amount of games right there. And for a kid that hasn't had a lot of games played, I just need to see more before, I make any sort of indication. After this season, Derek, if Anthony Richardson doesn't show any signs of improvement, of course, there's going to be more questions, and we're going to have some questions, no doubt. and there's going to be a lot of questions going into next year. But Derek, I've even seen people, I posted something on Twitter, just out of curiosity. I wasn't saying one way or another how I thought. I was just like, okay, like people who are still like, yes, Anthony Richardson's our guy. I'm just curious, like, what is your kind of point when you're like, I need to see him take a step by this point, right? Or I want to give him at least this much time. And I feel like the majority of people said either the end of this season or even next season as well. And I'm not too far off on that, Derek. I just think you need to see Anthony Richardson on the field. I mean, that's my biggest concern is just him staying on the field and being available, right? So I just need to see that from him. But we'll just have to see, man, with the rest of this season. And, I mean, we all knew what we were signing up for, man. Let's not act like this is a new thing, right? We're not shocked by this. So let's just continue to let the kid have those moments where you scratch your head and you're like, yep, this is the definition of growing pains right here. But let's not just completely throw everything out on him because he has a bad couple games, and because he struggles in his pseudo rookie season. Let's just not completely be done with this yet. Because, like you said, the 4th overall pick, that's significant, right? You don't just throw in the towel if,
in
this
less
kid
than a season's worth of games.
Right. If he was outright terrible and has played a lot of games, and that's a whole different conversation, like I said. And like we said, we don't know right now. I mean, nobody knows. Nobody can truly know if Anthony Richardson's going to be the franchise guy for the next number of years until he plays, and if he doesn't show signs of improvement. That's just what it is right now.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I just wanted to end with, was just like, look, I feel like we can beat this dead horse so many times. We can just keep saying it and saying it.
Gonna be saying it so many times, Cody. It's an every week thing.
And it's just, there'll still be those who don't listen. It's just like talking to a brick wall. That doesn't matter,
Yep.
But that's been the goal. That's been what we've expected. So, when he has bad games, we're not moved one way or another. We're not going to react one way and say he's not the guy or he is the guy. If he looks good, we'll say he looks good. That's encouraging. Let's see how he continues to go. If he looks bad, we'll say, okay, he wasn't a good game for him. Let's see how it continues the rest of the season. One way or another, he's going to have to learn and he's going to have to grow, right? That's just going to be what it's going to be. And if you're going to invest the 4th overall pick in a kid, you better believe that he's going to see the field as much as possible in the first couple of years.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I stand with it.
Oh, yeah. 100%. I mean, it needs to happen. So again, regardless of how you feel about him or not, he's going to be the starting quarterback for the entirety of this year when he's healthy. I don't think people are understanding that aspect. And I don't know how many more times I need to tell you, but again,
and he's got to be.
He will not get benched this year. I don't think you people quite understand that. He will not get benched. This is not a Bryce Young situation here. He will be the starting quarterback every game this season when he's healthy. Okay? We need to figure it out. Again, we can have the conversation again at the end of the season or at some point next season on whether or not we're seeing any improvement. But right now, we're just going to take the win, and I hope he learns from it, and we move on. Anyway, digress. Let's move to a different aspect here of this game. Rushing the football. As I mentioned before, Anthony Richardson was your leading rusher today. 56 yards today on 14 carries. I would say a slightly better day running the football here, Cody, for the Colts. Tyler Goodson, 14 carries for 51 yards. Trey Sermon, 8 carries for 36 yards. Doolin had a 12-yard rush. Altogether today, you ran the ball 37 times for 155 yards, a little over 4 yards a carry. Couple things about it, Cody, and I'll go first with it. Trey Sermon, again, really great job at the end of the game on a couple of those big runs to get you down the field when you needed a field goal. Great job by Trey Sermon to get in there. But a couple things are apparent. One, the Colts desperately need Jonathan Taylor back, Cody, in the worst way possible. Second of all, Tyler Goodson has shown he needs to be running back 2 going forward. He 100% needs to be the guy that if you're taking Jonathan Taylor out and not obvious pass situations with Trey Sermon being a pass blocker, you have to have Tyler Goodson getting the football more times than not.
Isn't it funny, Derek, that earlier this offseason, after everything that happened in the Texans game, there were people who were like, cut Tyler Goodson.
Yes.
You remember that?
Oh, I remember. I remember.
No, but I mean, we saw it last year, Derek. Obviously, everybody knows him from that play, Derek, of course. But when you really look at it for Tyler Goodson, I thought in the situations he had opportunities last year, he looked fairly good running the football. And you just really couldn't see it behind Zach Moss last year because obviously he got the majority of the carries without JT in already. And then when JT was in, he still got a lot of the carries. So, he was kind of relegated to that third, fourth running back. But you're absolutely right. The last 2 weeks, Tyler Goodson's been the best running back that's played. I mean, to be honest, he's been the best running back, no doubt about it. And today, obviously, talk about it, 14 carries. He was your leading back today. 14 carries, 51 yards, had that rushing touchdown. I just thought he looked really, really good running the football today. Of course, there are those moments where, doesn't really have a whole lot to run the ball. But, I mean, Tyler Goodson, I think, is just that RB2 that you need to talk about. Needs to be that guy moving forward because he is just kind of that change of pace back. He can catch it out of the backfield. He can do a lot. He's just very shifty, Derek. He's such a shifty back. He's such a nice change of pace back for what JT does and really anybody else on this roster for that, for that instance. So, yeah, I love what Tyler Goodson's provided, and I'm hoping that he continues to get more snaps because when you give him the ball, man, it seems like the majority of the time good things happen when he actually has a hole and actually has the ability to run the ball. So, I was encouraged by what he showed today running the football and much better performance from the run game altogether. You mentioned over 150 rushing yards today, which clearly better than it was a week ago. So definitely excited for that. And obviously getting JT back would be a major, major step in the right direction as well. But I mean, Derek, to that point of running the football, you saw how dangerous AR can be running the ball as well in this game. I mean, he had a lot of attempts as well. He had the same amount of attempts actually as Tyler Goodson did. He had 56 yards. He was your leading rusher today. And he had a couple critical, third down runs that you're like, man, even though he wasn't having a great day passing the football today, he is just so dynamic running the football. I don't know if I'm just this way, Derek, but every time he runs the ball now, I hold my breath because I'm just like, oh gosh, please no, don't do this again. But every time he runs the ball, I mean, it's good because obviously he's a freaking monster. He's 6'4", 250, so nobody wants to tackle him. But, yeah, man, I'm just – and also shout out to AR. He slid a little bit more today, which I like to see.
Yeah, and I think it was good today in the fact that you saw, like, him avoid the unnecessary hits, right? The unnecessary stuff. The stuff that had the potential to have him just get smoked. Right? You saw him slide that first one on that first drive, that 5-yard run, and he slid instead of trying to be Superman. He actually did the right thing. And there was a couple times he got out of bounds. He avoided some of those hits. Yes, congratulations to AR. I'll give a little bit of a clap there. That was good. I saw him. Of course, we don't want to see him carry the ball 14 times. I think that I don't know if that was by design or not, but we did see Anthony Richardson be a little smarter today with avoiding some of the big hits. And that's what we want to see from Anthony Richardson. Again, it's going to be inevitable that he's going to get tackled by some of these big guys, right? I'm less worried about the defensive lineman gang tackling him and bringing him down after a 2-yard gain. It's the hits that from those safeties, those fast flying safeties that come out of nowhere and clock him from behind, right? Those are the ones that I'm worried about. So if we can avoid those, which he did today, that's what we need to see going forward. So yeah, I agree.
Absolutely. Yeah, so good day running the football for the Colts. And, when you're looking at the Colts passing, obviously we know, Derek, the Colts weren't able to really do a whole lot passing the football, but the leading receiver today, Michael Pittman, 3 catches, 63 yards. And then A.D. Mitchell got a little bit more involved today, 2 catches for 30. Alec Pierce, 2 for 15. Derek, there were a couple moments in this game where Alec Pierce made an incredible catch that got negated by a penalty. That was just like, dang it. Like he feels like he has one of those just about every single week where you're just like, dang, man, that's insane, Yeah. So, I mean, yeah. But, I mean, receivers didn't do a whole lot today. I mean, like you said, Miami has a really good secondary. So, I mean, that was to be expected. I wasn't expecting the receivers to, do what they did last week even because, it was completely different. I mean, in a lot of ways, even a couple weeks ago, I know Tennessee had a pretty good passing game, passing defense as well, but even a couple weeks ago, Derek, when you played the Jaguars, like completely different. Jacksonville couldn't stop anybody. Couldn't stop a cold. So, I mean, it's just completely different. You played two really good pass defenses back-to-back weeks. And so I'm not too shocked that the receivers really didn't do a whole lot. But I'm always a firm believer. Get Alec Pierce deep shots every single game, at least a couple.
Yeah, and he had a couple in this game, but like you said, one just was out of the reach from Anthony Richardson, and the other one, like you said, got negated by a penalty, which is super unfortunate. But yeah, it was definitely not a great day for the wide receivers. Again, Michael Pittman, I thought early on some of his routes were just like, dude, what are we doing here? Like some of it was just bad. I mean, there was good coverage on some of the stuff that we were trying to hit him early on, but and then for Adonai Mitchell, I mean, again, he tripped on that one catch that he had where he might have taken it to the distance had he not slipped. Dude, have you noticed that the Colts are slipping and sliding everywhere? Like,
yeah.
The turf has not gotten better. Maybe from like an injury standpoint, but we're still slipping, dude, all over the place.
Well, even that, look at all the injuries we have. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it's been the turf. Either way, we have been slipping and sliding bad. But yeah. So Michael Pittman, I mean, solid day. Adonai Mitchell, solid day. Alec Pierce, dude, catch the freaking ball in the second quarter there, man. Catch it. It was the one really good throw that Anthony Richardson had in the first half, and then you dropped it. You're just lucky that the next play, Michael Pittman caught a 37-yarder. That's basically it. I mean, I'm so frustrated with that. Again, it goes to show you again, I'm so frustrated with the fact that people keep pointing out the stats, but when I point to the stats that the Colts receivers drop so many of his passes, it infuriates the hell out of me because nobody wants to pay attention to that. I don't know how many drops we had today. I think it was at least 4. I mean, again, if you take away that, again, 14 of 24 for nearly 200 yards would look a lot better than 10 of 24 for 129. It would look so much better. But again, we have some guys that either don't run the right route concepts or they just drop it, and it angers me. Again, not pointing the blame away from the fact that Anthony Richardson still looked bad. But we have to also put the blame on the wide receivers too. They don't ever do him any favors, Cody. I know he doesn't do him any favors, but they don't do him any favors either by not catching the easy stuff.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well, guys, with football season finally getting back into the swing of things, first off, we rejoice, but also, guys, when it comes to Prize Picks, this is going to be a great way for you guys, especially, to check out some of the stuff that Prize Picks has.
You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You heard me right. Only 4 correct picks. You can win 100 times your money, guys, on Prize Picks. Be sure to sign up today and get $50 off instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed.
So if you're looking specifically for the Colts stuff, that's definitely something you guys should check out. But if you're looking for, like me, more NFL stuff, there's all sorts of stats and stuff that you can check out and make your picks. And there's definitely guys that are very consistent, like Jonathan Taylor against the Houston Texans, that you really feel like you can probably feel pretty good about overall, right? And there's some other ones where you're like, I don't know if I would take the over on that. I don't know if I would pick them to hit that margin, right? So, guys, be sure to go check out all that stuff on Prize Picks. It's only a couple examples. There's all the different odds that you could hope for when it comes to that for Prize Picks. So I highly encourage you guys to go check that out, but definitely excited for this season, and hopefully you guys will be following along with us and everything with Prize Picks and what they do.
So be sure to download the app today. Use the code JUICE to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code JUICE to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Like I said, guys, it's a great way to continue to stay in with week to week life of the NFL, specifically with your favorite team, the Indianapolis Colts. So be sure to do that. Be sure to check out Prize Picks. And remember, Prize Picks, run your game.
All right, let's switch it over to the defensive side of things, Derek. So Indianapolis, I mean, you'll take 10 points against. I mean, I think we'll pretty much take that every single week. We'll take that happening for the Colts. So, I mean, when you look at it, Derek, obviously Huntley went out early in this game and only, and so it was Tim Boyle for the rest of this game. But regardless, Derek, Miami really wasn't able to get anything going passing the football for the majority of this game. They had a couple moments, but I want to shout out before we kind of get into it, definitely shout out the corners. I thought they did an excellent job today on, yes, of course, wasn't great quarterback play, but I mean, Derek, they did a phenomenal job against two really good receivers in that Miami has, and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and they really held them to barely anything. I mean, you look at it, Derek, overall, Jalen Waddle had one catch, Tyreek Hill had one catch. So, I mean, they were non-factors in this game for the Miami Dolphins. And, I mean, when you think about it, Derek, like, how hard is it to get some of your best players involved? I'm just kind of shocked that Miami didn't try to do that more, but to give the Colts credit, maybe they just weren't open for the majority of the time. I'm not entirely sure, but whatever, regardless, I felt like the corners played exceptionally well today. They did a great job. Shout out also, Derek, to the two linebackers the Colts had. I don't know if you saw the tackle stats for Grant Stewart and Zaire Franklin in this game. Zaire Franklin had 15 tackles and a forced fumble. Grant Stewart had 17 tackles.
Goodness
today.
Gracious.
Yeah.
That dude, I'll tell you what, that dude has the biggest freaking heart, I think, of any player that we have. Like, it's in amazing. The limited chances he ever gets, dude, he plays hard. I mean, he plays hard and fast, dude, and I love it.
Oh, yeah. You love that hair flying around. It's beautiful. It's a work of art, man. Absolutely. So, yeah, shout out to them. But, I mean, Derek, if you look at, of course, the thing that's been the issue for the Colts all year long really has been the running game, and Miami able to run the ball very effectively today against the Indianapolis Colts. They had 188 rushing yards today. They actually had more rushing yards than passing yards today, if that tells you anything, Derek. So this run defense continues to struggle, man. They continue to have their issues. What are your thoughts, man, overall on this Colts defense and what they're able to do today, or really not do today, when it comes to stopping the run? What's the issue, man?
Well, I mean, remember, this is, again, against an offense in Miami that clearly cannot function without their quarterback. I mean, this is so strange. Like, I mean, obviously the Colts have issues every once in a while when it comes to Anthony Richardson. But, I mean, the difference is, like, at least the Colts, when they have Anthony Richardson, at least they can make explosive plays. Like, right. This Miami team is incapable of finding their biggest weapons on the outside without Tua. And I don't understand it. I was talking about it with Dougley Durong at the start of the week. I'm like, is Mike McDaniel really that great of a game plan coordinator? Really? I mean, like, again, Tua is the guy, obviously, and there's a big drop-off. But, like, your offense is incapable of getting your two best weapons on the outside of the ball. They're incapable of it. I'm so shocked at just the inability of a backup quarterback to be able to find Tyreek Hill. I don't understand it. And, I do feel bad in a way for Tyler Huntley because he put a perfect ball to where Tyreek Hill could have got it, but just Tyreek Hill ended up losing it. I mean, what can you do, right? I mean, that's so unfortunate. It's just like, I don't understand it. But, yeah, you're facing a bad Miami offense, at least from a passing perspective. We thought that the week off might give them a better chance. Didn't seem to really help.
No, it didn't matter.
I mean, again, they were between Huntley and Boyle, 15 to 26, 149 yards. You gave up that touchdown in the first quarter. Again, the offense kind of put you in a bad position. They gave them the short field. But, I mean, again, you still can't stop the run. I'm still angry at the fact that you still can't stop the run. It is blatantly obvious that this team is garbage at stopping the run. Between the three running backs that the Dolphins had today, had 31 carries for over 150 yards. So they were averaging 5 yards a carry amongst each other. And we are still just so bad at stopping the run. But, I mean, it's kind of similar to what happened last week, Cody. I mean, you did a bad job stopping the run, but ultimately it didn't kill you because you were able to hold the pass down. I mean, the corners did phenomenal. And, I will say this time around, the Colts actually did a much better job of getting pressure on the quarterback. Even they sacked him twice. You were able to get Boyle and Huntley under consistent pressure, forcing them to have to make plays with their feet every once in a while. And, I will give them credit in that regard. But, yeah, this is still a team that, like, if you're giving up 150 rushing yards to an offense that is truly horrific like this, if you're going to give up that much against a really good offense, we're in trouble. I mean, we're in serious trouble if we're not able to start figuring it out.
DeForest Buckner can't come back soon enough. So hopefully he does return next week because it's bad, man. It's really bad.
Very bad. I will say this. Shout out again to Stewart and Franklin. I mean, phenomenal work there. Great job by Latu to get that one sack. Nice job by Carlisle to get that sack. Unfortunately, it didn't matter. It's unfortunate. You were on a 2nd and 2, and you were 2nd and 2. You get an 8-yard sack, and then the next play results in a touchdown. I mean, freaking heck, man. I mean, what can you do?
Right.
But yeah, I mean, shout out to Latu, shout out to Franklin, shout out to Stewart for making the plays that were needed. I mean, again, I don't care if it's the backup to the backup when it comes to the quarterbacks for Miami. I mean, they just you need to make the plays, and you know what? You forced 2 fumbles too, especially in a situation where the Colts needed it in that second half to start. The defense made the big play first, and then obviously forcing a turnover inside the red zone too. Again, the Colts have done that over the last few weeks. They have just put together those 1 or 2 turnovers that really drastically changed the course of the game. And, it helped keep the offense in check for Indy. And, that's all you can really ask for.
Yeah, and the defense, I thought, did a good job on that last drive as well. Shout out to Jalen Jones. I thought he had a couple nice plays on that last drive. He had that pass breakup earlier in the drive, and then, he tackled A-Chain out of bounds. And shout out to Shane Steichen, by the way, forcing Miami to take a timeout there on that 4th down. If you remember when, the Colts kept the offense out there and it forced Miami to call a timeout on 4th down. And that ultimately was a huge decision right there, because Miami didn't have any timeouts trying to go ahead, and they couldn't kick a field goal. They had to score. And Jalen Jones tackled A-Chain in bounds. Miami had to keep it going. They wasted a lot of time. They wasted like 15 seconds trying to just spike the ball. And I just thought that was great situational awareness there by Jalen Jones of not letting him go out of bounds. So, just shout out to him, and really just shout out to the secondary in general. I thought they did a great job today. The only real threat today was the tight end. So I thought they did a great job on the receivers, and did a great job really in general in the passing game. So yeah, good job by that unit today, and makes you feel confident about this cornerback room, which is crazy to even think about, Derek. But again, not very big tests recently, but I mean, Derek, your young corners are showing some positive signs, which is definitely great. You got Womack, who we know about. You got Jalen Jones. Kenny Moore, obviously, is back. And I'm like, okay, this isn't as big of an issue as maybe we thought. Now, again, you're going to play a gauntlet of some quarterbacks here and some receivers, so
Oh,
we'll
yeah.
see on that. But yeah, I mean, right now, I think they did a great job as of today. In the last couple weeks, I feel like the corners have done a really good job.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it is crazy still to think about the fact that, again, we've talked about how this secondary might be the weakest unit on the team. It might be one of the weakest units in all of the NFL. And albeit it hasn't been great, but it still has been far from the problem, which is crazy to think about with given everything that's happened. So, yeah, I mean, like you said, shout out to them. One last final shout out, and that's to Matt Gay for actually doing his job today. Matt Gay, 3 of 3 from field goal range today, and actually made a 52-yarder, the 52-yarder that ended the second half. I mean, again, Cody, think about it. Had Matt Gay not made that kick, right, things could have potentially went a different direction because you had no momentum before Anthony Richardson connected with Michael Pittman on that catch to get you down to be able to make that kick. Had you not made that, it would have been a 2-score game, and Miami would have had the ball to start the second half. No momentum for Indianapolis, none. But you went into that second half after giving up that field goal, but then making that field goal saying, all right, 1-score game, we're good. Lock in. It's fine. 1 score. That's all it's going to take. It would have been a drastically different feel if he would not have made that kick. And, I mean, Matt Gay did his job today, dude. That's it. That's all we needed. You made the big ones. That is the type of kick that we paid you the money to make. And I'm glad that he finally did. And it went a long way to giving the Colts confidence going into that second half.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then who knew we would talk about that? Special teams has won you the last 2 weeks, Derek. Crazy. Who would have thought of that? Last week it was Rigo with that beautiful punt. This week, Matt Gay making some big field goals. Man, I love that. I really, truly hope this is what gets him right. I really hope he's not an issue moving forward. And then I'm like, okay, we have one less thing we got to worry about when it comes to this team. But yeah, Matt Gay. I mean, I feel like the last couple weeks, Derek, he's looked pretty good. Like, obviously they haven't always been the greatest. Like, they've been a little concerned, but I mean, when it comes down to it, he's made what he's needed to make the last couple weeks. So definitely give him his flowers, man. He deserves them this week, especially.
Yep, absolutely. Well, that's going to do it for this one, guys. Again, wasn't pretty, but the Indianapolis Colts are on the right side of the record boards right now. And, believe it or not, Cody, the Indianapolis Colts, I mean, they win next week against the Texans. Mm-hmm. The records are tied. The records are tied. Somehow, some way, Indianapolis is right back in it if they beat the Texans next week. So
that's wild, man.
Bad as this looked, there still might be a chance.
Houston did not look good either today. So
yeah, they didn't look good. I know they played against Green Bay. They played a really good team, but I mean, again, we didn't look good against Green Bay. So, I mean, again, and listen, all right, Stroud hadn't looked too great the last couple weeks, Cody. I mean, he's had a couple of decent ones, but like the last few weeks, he's not looked phenomenal. All right, we'll worry about that when it comes to it. We'll just enjoy this win while we have the chance. But that's going to do it for this one, guys. Let us know your thoughts on this game. Thank you so much for tuning in. And as always, go Colts.